It is kind of
Hey, good job.
Been okay? Excellent.
They are.
Good evening, everyone. Let's get started. Awesome. All right, welcome everyone. So glad you're here. It's nice that it's sunny today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm Patricia Rothwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Energy Efficiency Business Coalition. I think I pretty much know almost everybody here. First off, I also want to thank DU for hosting our meetings like this. It's a great space called the Collaboratory Room. And Eric Holt is in charge. He's the professor that makes it all happen. DU created this room for businesses to utilize. So if you would like to use this space, contact Eric Holt. Anything you want to add?
No, this is a room to connect industry with students. So I've got some students floating around here to just learn and connect with you guys, and they're always looking for jobs. So if they come sniffing around, make sure you talk. So.
Awesome. Also want to just remind you, Deb Goodman is in the back. She does a membership. You've probably talked to her as well. We also have Stephanie Lupinski on the line. She does our marketing and communications. I just want to do a shout out for her as well. Really quick, do we have any board members in the room? I think that Doug is on his way. And also want to ask, do we have any non-members in the room this morning? Welcome. So yeah, glad you're here. Thanks for coming. And hopefully it'll give you interesting and helpful. So what we'll do is get started. The bathrooms, there's the women's here and the men's down the hall. You know, sounds like everybody's gotten food. So let's get started. Today, our topic is designed for the companies that are going to be using rebates and also beneficial electrification. It's basically all things rebates, and then also how do you accelerate those opportunities. And so we're looking at financing being included in that. Everything that we're presenting today is not necessarily that the EBC is endorsing it. We want to give the contractors a lot of good ideas about how to go to market and things to be thinking about as we move into 2024. So that is what our topic is. So we call it Boost Your Business Toolkit of Electrification Offerings and how that all fits together. So with that, we don't have a panel today, so we're going to have our speakers. And we want to try to get through to the end so we get a good 15, 20 minutes for questions and discussion, because that always seems to be one of the pieces that everyone really enjoys, to hear other perspectives and get feedback on what you hear today. It's going to be really important to the speakers because they're looking for feedback as they're developing programs for you. So to get started, first we're going to talk about the new IRA. We got the DOE guidelines came into Colorado Energy Office. So we've all been talking about this for almost a year. So we're excited to hear from the Colorado Energy Office. And Annie Beal is the Climate Ready Buildings lead. It is going to be online, but she has been in her position for 1 month, and she will be the one working on rebate stacking. So we're excited to hear from her. And do you have her up there?
Hey, y'all, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Well, I wish to be there in person. I live in Gunnison, Colorado. There we go. Hey, everybody. I hope to meet you all in person soon, but for now, thank you for meeting me over Zoom. And Eric, are you going to run my slides while you're there?
Yes, I am going to try and figure out how to do this. Yes, no.
Okay, I'll give you a second. Yeah.
You have this one slide, but do you have others? You got a whole, that's your intro, right?
Yep. No, that's just my slide introducing her. She's the next one.
There we are. All right. Thanks so much. All right, so as you all know, the federal government has developed the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act is allocating funds to each state to help deploy home energy rebate programs to bring home electrification mechanisms to Coloradans. And we're going to need your help doing this. So I would love to hear from you all today. I'm going to just share for 15 minutes, and I'm going to share about the federal requirements that have come out and put out a call to you all to see how we can design these rebate programs to best support your industries and also meet the federal requirements and support Coloradans who have not previously been served by efficiency upgrades. And I'll also share the program requirements as to what they're defining as qualified electrical projects and hear from you all after the presentations today. If you would go to the next slide, Eric. Sorry, I skipped that. So this is the overview, and if you go to the next one. Thank you. So the rebates, programs, and requirements, we want to support a workforce to serve disproportionately impacted communities. We want to identify certifications and support certification pathways that you all are already utilizing in your sector. The requirements ask for us to also develop and align with a qualified contractor list throughout the state. And we want to create rebates that are easy to interact with to support the households and installers. And we also really want to design a program that supports contractors to confidently share about these rebate opportunities within your sector, within your personal communities, and within your businesses. And let's see, there we go. And if you would go to the, oh, and a big part of this program is we do really want to support delivering efficiency first and a whole home efficiency program. So I'll share about in the next slide that you've pulled up, thank you, that there are two programs that we can design rebates for. One is what we're calling here, and it's home electrification and appliance rebates. And this is to upgrade efficient appliances. And the second type of program is a more of a performance-based rebate program where we're going to be looking at the whole home for efficiency retrofits to create overall energy savings for households based on either a modeled or a measured approach. And we'd love your feedback and ideas about these types of programs. So again, both of these rebate programs. Are you
getting dressed? We only have 5 minutes left. Okay.
I heard somebody talking to their kiddo. So both of these programs are not yet developed, but we are going to be developing these programs this year with the feedback from our communities across the state, with feedback from the industries, and then create programs to be available for folks. So we're in creation time right now. If you go to the next slide. Thank you. So here are the details about the home electrification and appliance rebates, the here. And these are maximum requirements outlined by the IRA. So we're not necessarily guaranteeing these, but these are maximum requirements. And so for home appliances, we might be able to include point of sale rebates. Right now, maximum requirements include that there's a $14,000 cap per household, and it will be income based. But the mechanicals and appliances that we're looking at include heat pumps for space heating and cooling, heat pump water heaters, heat pump clothes dryers, electrical stoves, cooktops, ranges, and ovens. And the enabling upgrade materials could include electric load service centers or electric panels, electric wiring, insulation, air sealing, and mechanical ventilation. And these types of rebates can be used for new construction or for the first purchase of an appliance. And again, we're developing how these will be income-based, where we could fund up to 100% of the cost for certain households or 50% of the cost for other households. And we don't yet know what that will be like. So if you would go to the next slide. The second rebate program is the home efficiency performance-based rebate. And these are efficiency retrofits with savings based on either a modeled or a measured approach. And we're likely going to be focusing on supporting multifamily homes and buildings. And the goal is, in a modeled approach, we want homes to achieve a minimum of a 20% energy savings. And in a measured approach, we want these rebates to support homes to achieve energy savings of at least 15%. And if you go to the next slide, please. Thanks. For the whole home performance-based rebates and for electric heat pumps, we are going to request home assessments. These are an important component of consumer protection to help understand the potential risks and benefits to a household pursuing an upgrade. And we want to ensure that customers are aware of certain qualified electrical projects. So we are going to require these home assessments, and I know a lot of y'all are in this industry, and we really look forward to utilizing home assessment standards that you already utilize, and really help or get your lens as to how can we holistically support these homes. If you go to the next slide for me. Thanks. So we really want to design these rebate programs to provide great consumer experience. And as you're thinking of these rebates, I'd like for you to just think and maybe respond to me at the end of today, at the end of this morning, or via email. How are you already working to serve income qualified households? And are you already working with utility rebates and familiar with these processes, and what works well for you? What could be improved? And how can we really design a program to help you connect with income qualified customers and utilize Energy Star electrical appliances? If you go to the next slide for me. Thanks. We have the opportunity to develop incentives into the program, and we're considering how to do this with eligible entities. And the requirements allow us to use fundings to support qualified electrical projects, and qualified eligible entities to receive up to $500 per home if it's a whole home, or there's different incentive amounts per appliance that one would be installing. And we want to develop incentives to support folks to get these out there and into homes of Coloradans. And then the next slide with the contractor certifications, I see you there. Thank you. Oh, sorry, if you go right back, Eric.
Backwards? Back one, yeah.
Yeah, just one. Thank you. We will want to be working with contractors who are certified, and all the rebates will need to be utilized and installed by certified contractors. So in this rebate program, we want to support upskilling existing HVAC and plumbing contractors. We want to support updating training pathways that exist. And we also want to support recruiting more people into heat pump and heat pump water heater fields, and bring more people from different communities into this industry. And again, we want to identify and support certifications you all are already using. If you go to the next slide. All right, stacking and braiding. So we really want these rebates to reach folks that don't have a great tax liability. And people who do have tax
Yeah, you're on mute.
Annie, we lost you about a minute ago. Well, on mute. We were trying to clear out the previous noise.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. About a minute ago.
No, we muted you on accident, so we
okay.
hear everything on stacking and braiding.
Okay, we'll start again with stacking. Thanks, y'all. So we want these rebates to reach folks that don't have a great tax liability. Tax credits will be a really good fit for folks who do have tax liability, but folks who don't want to use these rebates to cover a majority of the cost of these appliances. And then there's opportunities to combine these rebates with utility programs, utility rebates, and then stack on tax credits. So we'll go into that much more today, but the goal, again, with these rebates is to support folks that don't have a great tax liability. And if you would go to the next slide. All right, so you've seen this slide before in the beginning, but a summary here of the direction of these rebates are to support you all as a workforce to serve disproportionately impacted communities in Colorado, folks who haven't been served by efficiency upgrades previously. We want to identify certifications and certification pathways that you all utilize and value. And we want to align with a qualified contractor list throughout the state. And we want these rebates to be easy to interact with for households and installers. And again, support contractors to develop a relationship with these rebates, support them to bring these to their customers and your businesses. And if you go to the next slide, as a last slide for me, next steps is that here at the Colorado Energy Office, we'll continue to engage with you all and your action groups and your core groups. And we'll work with EEBC to send out follow-up to gain more feedback or solicit your direct questions. And if you're interested to sign up for updates from us directly, we have a site on our website. And so you can visit energyoffice.colorado.gov/federal funding incentives and go to find the Inflation Reduction Act information. And you can also email me directly at CEO_buildingdecarb@state.co.us. And I look forward to hearing your initial reactions and questions when we get to the Q&A later this morning. Thanks so much.
Super appreciate it. One quick question. When you talk about here in homes and income qualified, they both have different definitions for what those two groups are. Could you just quickly give us a quick highlight on that?
Yeah, so we have disproportionately impacted communities, and we will be able to define that further and kind of map what those communities look like. But lower to moderate income households, we call that LMI. So just generally thinking who's a low and moderate income, and we do define those by area median income, if y'all have heard that description. So we are looking at lower incomes as below 80% AMI. And that's different throughout the state. So it depends on what county folks are in. And then more of a moderate income would be described as 150% AMI. And so we're going to decide based on gathering feedback from so many different stakeholders, we're going to decide who to best serve, and we'll further define those.
Thank you. And that creates a great site, and we're really excited and we appreciate that you're working closely with the EEBC. And our members, this will be your opportunity to help influence the design of how these turn out. So that's really important. And just a reminder, there's qualified, there's median qualified, paraphrase, and then additionally, there's all the other rebates. So if you're not doing income qualified installs, there's an opportunity, there's going to be a buzz in the market. It's going to create the opportunity for you to use other rebates too, just as a reminder. So we're excited to be working with you. Thank you. And welcome to your position. You have a big lift ahead of you, and we appreciate it. And then that also segues where they're talking about the importance of the workforce piece and supporting the development of that. And everybody on your table, just a good reminder that we have the EBC workforce training and hiring, and then also the energy efficiency side, we have the BPI training, which is a certification of knowledge from BPI, and then also the 608 EPA as well for heat pumps certification separately. And then the heat pump training gives you a quick note here. There's installation, design, service, and maintenance as well. So utilize the EBC. We have funding from Denver and DOE, and so that you can upskill your existing employees and put them through any of these trainings at no cost and get certified. And if you know somebody who wants to get into the industry, new to the industry, absolutely send them our way. Deb Goodman, she's driving that program, to talk with her. She will help get anybody placed. For example, we have a student right now who has some experience in the construction industry, taking heat pump training. He'd be a great candidate for you to interview. So we are also helping place those individuals in your companies too. That's one of the benefits of the EBC. Deb, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. Talk to me and we can get you registered, talk about the programs. And if somebody has they just want to take one part of our program, we can break it up for you. We customize it. We stay on top of it, engage with you. We really want to help everybody and support them as we're transitioning with all of these changes. So please see me if you have any questions about our programs or know someone who wants to, possibly get into this industry.
And we're also adding hands-on training. So one of the things that we want to get feedback on is how much hands-on training do you want from your techs, and how much technical support and education do you want them to have? And so you can kind of put that together however you want. We have some companies that are doing a module at a time as a group on Friday morning with their techs before they go out. It's been utilized. People are customizing it for their own companies. So any questions on that? Yes, Anne?
What's the capacity? How many students can you take?
For the online piece?
And it's unlimited right now. Unlimited. So hundreds. And we right now have 50 registered and are taking the course right now. And it's more than 50. Deb has I think we got 4 more people sign up this week.
I have 8 more
in training. Yeah. And then I think we have 13 people in BPI, and BPI is 50. BPI is limited. So yeah. So if you want to get BPI training, get them in now. First come, first served.
Limited on budget for a year kind of a thing, or?
Yeah, for the initial, this is a 3-year program and we have a 1.5 years left. So this will all be available through December, and then we can get more funding.
Another 50 next year, possibly?
We don't know.
We don't know. Actually, I would say no right now because we don't have a commitment.
Do you have a plan for a waiting list?
I would definitely take a waiting list just to see, because then I have something to go back to and say, hey, we have 12 more people who want to take this course. The other thing I wanted to make a comment for the hands-on training, it'll be small groups. And we're discovering as people new to the industry are coming in, they need to see what it's like. They need to see what a heat pump is. They need to know if they're claustrophobic. Things that they don't think about just on the online piece of it. that they're getting more experience, and so that when you hire them, they're fully aware of what they're getting into, and you don't have, you know, and because everybody, I'm finding all of you train a little bit differently in this world, and that's okay. You know, you have your culture in your company, and so you train them your way when they actually get to your company, but we want to give them as much experience as we can before they get to you and make sure they're a good fit.
Quick shout out. So our hands-on training, we're utilizing your distributors. So it's our members who are distributors, Hercules, Johnstone, also the facility, Mitsubishi and Train. If you have distributors who'd like to get involved with that, come join and you see what we can do. Okay, so with that, let's move forward. So our next topic is Xcel Energy, the December 2023 rebate program launched. And so Anne is going to give us the highlights on that. And
tell me where you want me to stand.
Okay. Yeah, if you would. There's running your slides for you.
Thank you. I'm setting it.
Tomatoes ready.
10 minutes to present, 5 minutes for questions.
Let's stay into schedule, everyone.
If there's class in here at 10, you have to.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Just a few slides on this. One is just to talk about quickly the regulatory calendar. Strategic issues, of course, settled this summer. And so we are scurrying around like crazy, getting ready to file the new triennial plan for 2024. This is not something that happens quickly, as we know, because we just launched 2023 on September 1st. And we had filed that over a year ago. So it just takes a long time to go through the process. And so 2023 is likely to be in place until about this time next year. And 2024, we hope to have the initial draft done really shortly. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, a lot of business, because the strategic issues changes a lot for us. It's really big and good. So looking forward to working with you all through that process. That's not me directly, but the Xcel Energy team. And this is the first time we will have a 3-year plan instead of a 2-year plan. I don't know about y'all, but I wouldn't mind a little stability, right? For some length of time, right? Maybe, we'll see. Next slide, please. Unbill Financing, Patricia asked me to put something about this. This is not my area of expertise, but it is developing, and we did get permission or approval for it from the Public Utilities Commission in the strategic issues filing. So it's coming soon. I just wanted to put it out there. One of the things that I personally am really encouraged by is the concept that approval is not based on the traditional score, right? So what it does is we're looking at the customer's payment history with us, as opposed to a traditional score. So that should make room for more people to participate. We certainly hope so. And we hope that we can keep it a simple process. And let's see what I haven't talked about. So that traditional eligibility is really what we're hitting there. It's tied to the premise. So if I were to take this loan, right, and it's on my Xcel Energy account, and then I move, that loan stays with the home, not with me after I move. Interesting concept again, right? The eligibility can be standalone or bundled measures. And I'm curious to see how that will shake out. What we're hoping to see, of course, is not just one improvement, but multiple improvements, so that we're encouraging customers to take more than just one action. And there will be customized options, and hopefully we'll be able to help fill in if any program ever covers everything, I have yet to see it, right? So there might be gaps here and there, and perhaps this will help with that as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. I wanted to give you just a few highlights from the 2023 plan. The idea was we weren't going to have a lot of big changes for 2023. We really saw this as just a bridge to strategic issues settling and then being able to launch that big new program. That said, there were things that really changed. The biggest one probably is that commercial program has heat pumps now. Yay. So Bob McCauley is going to talk in a moment about some training coming up for that. On the lighting front, they just made a change. Lighting bonuses were set to end this week. And they have now continued that through the end of the year because they're going to continue them next year. So there won't be a gap. It will be a continuous thing. Lovely. One of the surprises for us in the strategic issues was a mandate that we stop offering AC rebates as of January 1st, 2024. Yeah, that program is much bigger than our centrally ducted air source heat pump program. And so we're not quite sure yet what that is going to look like. The word backlash comes to mind. I'm just saying. But it also gives us a great opportunity to try to recruit more people into the heat pump family. Right. And I'll talk about a training that we have coming up, and I need your help in getting people to that training who don't normally come, who don't normally listen to us, who have been ignoring the rebates. It's harder to ignore big rebates than small rebates. So hopefully that will help move the needle. One more change coming on January 1st. We haven't really talked much about this yet, but it is that if a customer already has a condensing furnace, then we can't rebate them for another one. So that's in preparation for the coming cease of all gas appliances down the road. Heat pump water heaters, we've had two different rebate levels. We've had a $600 for the ones that don't qualify today for our demand response program. And then we have this, the ones that do have been $800, so $600 or $800. I gotta tell you, it has lent itself to some confusion. And so we hope to eliminate some of the confusion, have one rebate level. So that's, we're not sure that in the past, we haven't had to file a 60-day notice if we're just raising a rebate. And we're getting clarity as to whether we need to do that or not. The sooner we can do that, the better, right? Make things as simple as we can. The heat pump rebates, as you all will know, have moved from $1,500 and $2,000 to now $1,700 and $2,200. So we've moved them up some. There's now a bonus $600 rebate for getting insulation done within that 12-month window of a heat pump being put in. It can be done before, which in some ways is ideal, so you can get the size of the heat pump smaller, or it can be done afterwards. So more to come on that. We'll be talking about that in training as well. And then the insulation rebate for performance is pay for performance, which was a settlement item that we agreed to, is now in place. It is only within the whole home efficiency program. What that means is that there has to be a home energy audit before the customer can qualify and the contractor can offer the rebates. So again, kind of more pushing toward that building performance piece, and also gives us more opportunity for some oversight. And Clear Result is our partner in that. Chris, you want to say hi? Yeah. So Chris is the guy out there working with the contractors to make sure that this is done really well. We have training coming up. That is clear results training. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Oh, yeah. So we're just doing a training program, seminar basically, on how the whole home efficiency program works. It's October 17th. It'll be at what's the name of the place? CRM, IECRM in Thornton. So basically, it just it's going to give everybody a rundown on exactly how the program works, how to go through the process, what are the requirements. Not super complicated. It'll be about 2 hours long with maybe an hour for conversation. And
thanks, Chris. I have 40 seconds to get through 3 slides. Next slide.
You got this.
All right, next slide, please. Quick, skip that one, please. Skip that one, please. Yeah, okay. So we're switching our training into 2 segments. This one is myth busting for the contractors who haven't come on board. Right. So all those things that they want to use as excuses not to heat pumps, we're trying to address those. We really need people there that don't normally come. Anything you can do to help recruit people in. We've got the link. I'll be sending out a reminder email. Most of you will get that. If not from me directly, then it will.
We're doing good on time. Go ahead.
Thank you. Permission to go long. Yeah. But the Colorado Energy Office is also going to be there to do a listening session about the upcoming program designs. And I think we're really looking forward to that. Sam, City and County of Denver, will be doing a presentation as well. And we're bringing in some subject matter experts that we've used in the past, folks who are nationally known speakers, very good at this. Next slide, please. The next one is, it's the very next day, but it's for the community that already are engaged with heat pumps. There's that new Manual S from ACCA that's come out. It's now ANSI approved. It's wonderful guidance. I mean, in terms of, we've gone from almost no guidance to, wow, do we now have a lot of guidance? But the document is not something that contractors are likely to read. It's really complex. So we're going to spend a couple of hours kind of boiling it down, trying to make it usable information, really talking about backup, supplemental heat, different types of heat pump sizing guidance that's now additional information, and dry climate specific. That's the big one, but we're also going to try to do more of a bridge between the silo and we know something about silos, right? I mean, it's just our natural inclination to stick with what we know, right? So insulation, heating and cooling. There's not a lot of crossover. There to be more crossover. So how do we do that? How do we make sense of it for contractors? Do these audiences even know each other? Is there a possibility to do lead sharing on the backside? Would they be willing to do some partnership, offer, you know, an office space to each other, perhaps? How can we build that bridge? We're going to attempt this again. We've done it off and on, right, for 15 years. And we have hope, right? There's some thought here on the national level that this may become inevitable. So the sooner we can gear for it, the better. So we'll give it a good shot and see how it goes. There's also some really cool tools that are emerging. I'm sure you know about some of them. And so we're going to demo some of those as well. Again, we'd really appreciate your help. We'd love to see you there. We'd love for you to bring your contractors, please. And next slide. I'm asking Bob McCauley to step in on this next one because it has to do with commercial heat pump training.
That is right. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good morning.
All right. Hi. Good morning, everyone. And thank you to Patricia and thanks, Ann, for letting me kind of piggyback on your presentation. This was a last minute request, so I will make it quick, but I just want to make sure that everyone in the audience is aware that what Ann is talking about for residential, we also have some exciting news on the commercial front. All right. And in order to launch this, we have scheduled 2 virtual trainings, virtual web workshops that are coming up in October. You see the dates, you see the times here. There is the link. All right. And This is the initial launch for commercial. So we have some brand new prescriptive rebates on the commercial side. As many of you are probably aware, in the past, a lot of our cooling rebates have been what we call midstream, directly to distributors. So these new rebates that we're launching are actually downstream. So they're going to be to the end use commercial customer, and they involve air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, commercial heat pump water heaters, dual fuel rooftop units, and VRF systems, VRF heat pumps, if you will. Okay, so it's the first time we're offering downstream rebates. So if you want to learn more, if you did not get the initial invite, it was sent out this past Monday with the link. If you're part of our trade network on the commercial side, hopefully you did. But if you did not, I will be providing the link here, or you can get a hold of me and I'll be happy to send it out. Okay, now in addition to these downstream rebates, we're also going to be discussing some important changes taking place with the midstream program. I mentioned how in the past we used the midstream program specifically for distributors and did not dictate what they did with any of that incentive. All right, going forward, effective January 1st, we will have a pass-through component that is required by the distributor to pass through to who they sell to all the way down the line to our commercial customer. So obviously that is a huge change to the program. We're actually still finalizing how that will work with all the distributors who are a part of it. But we're going to touch on that during the trainings. And we also will have some folks from City and County of Denver there to talk about their new launch of their commercial rebates and how they sync up with what Xcel Energy will be offering. So again, some very exciting times, some great news that I know a lot of folks in the audience have been waiting for us to announce to see, you know, what the possibilities are here for working with our commercial rebates. So again, there's my email address, robert.j.mccauley@xcelenergy.com. Feel free to email me if you want to know more info before the webinars and the workshops, or if you have any other questions about these or any of our other programs. So thank you, Ann, for letting me promote that.
You bet. Thanks, Bob.
All right, you got it.
I just thought of something that I didn't mention, and I apologize, and that is that another settlement item has been the midstream heat pump water heater program. I want to say a special thank you to Patricia and the EEBC for having done some wonderful moderation, bringing together, or facilitation, bringing together the program that's happening in California. And an opportunity to really talk in detail with those manufacturers and energy solutions. And it was a fabulous meeting and so helpful to ground ideas in the reality of something that already exists. That is coming. And I don't know the exact time of launch, but I believe that there's a 60-day notice coming on that. And I apologize for not having the dates nailed down for you. We'll look for that 60-day notice. Any questions?
You're right on track, by the way.
All right. I saw Patricia put out some of these brochures. This is something that we will be covering again during the myth busting. This is a customer education piece after the heat pump is installed to try to minimize nuisance calls from customers. It's making funny noises. It smells funny, whatever it is, right? So that's what that's about. And yeah, Sean.
Thanks for the move to heat pumps from air conditioners. That is the right move. And I don't say that because I work for a company that does these things. But it helps. It does help. But on the 600 bonus for installation within 6 months, just have an eye towards people trying to sort of time load those depending on the part of the year, so that they're going to try to stack those $2,000 federal incentives. So installation this year or heat pump that year or whatever. So you might be waiting the second half of the year or the first half of the year on one or the other.
Thank you. Yes, we expect it's going to be a little bumpy. Yeah, and it also, like, what we're hearing from the subject matter experts we use for training is that by doing insulation air sealing first, it can downsize the heat pump load by half to a full ton. And based on equipment availability and based on the ratings that are higher for smaller systems than larger systems, it really could be very beneficial to customers as well as to everyone trying to deliver and install heat pumps.
So that's my question. Why incentivize installation and air sealing after you've installed a system? Because now your loads are going to be wrong.
I got to tell you, that's the way the settlement item was written. And we had given some feedback to the contrary that didn't happen. So that's the way the settlement is written. That's what we're doing for now. And I gotta say, there's some, it's not all bad.
No, it's not all bad. It's just wrong order. They're both good things. One impacts the other, right?
Understood.
Is that something that could be addressed in a 60-day notice?
That's not a 60-day notice anymore. It's in the plan. So it could be addressed with a 60-day notice, but it's probably, we don't know that the uptake is going to be really big in year one. So I'm not sure it's worth doing a 60-day notice now. And it also might
2024-26. So that would be the action group work, especially getting the insulation air sealing companies involved in that piece. So that would be a shout out for one of those, for that action committee, which is the building envelope committee I'm going to talk about next. And that would probably be an item for maybe the heat pump and the building envelope committees to collaborate on for 2000.
Yeah. Just as a comment, what they do in Massachusetts, as an example, is you can't even apply for a heat pump rebate unless you've had installation done, and you get a home assessment ID associated with the completion of your insulation and air sealing work. And then you have to put that on every single heat pump rebate application. So it's a gate. Yeah, you can apply as you're thinking through what you could. Yes, it works very well.
Let's. I think. I just want to be cautionary about creating barriers to participation. Anything like this could set back heat pump adoption markedly. Thinking about the cost of a heat pump, thinking about the cost of insulation. Some people won't be able to afford it for whatever reason, or in an emergency replacement situation, they can't. They just don't have the time to do the home energy. They may need an assessment first, right? And that process, like thinking about what happens as an emergency replacement, I think really, I just want to, very cautionary. Yeah, it's going to be a really tough uplift, as we all know, to get contractors who today are doing business as usual for the past 40 years into the heat pump environment. We need to be really careful not to discourage them from participation if we can. We can refine later. Sorry, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer.
No, it makes sense. I think the way Massachusetts does it is you can get an assessment like that and someone will come and air seal at the same time. So it's not really a blocker, and the rebate is $10,000.
Thank you.
And we make note of that 10,000.
We're listening. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say, on the topic of insulation and heat pumps, one of the things, sorry, I'm Andrea Salazar, Michael's Energy, working on behalf of City of Denver. We're seeing that getting the different trades to work together, whether it be insulation and heat pump installers, whether it be electrical contractors and HVAC, whether it be plumbing and HVAC, thank you, and Scott. That's gonna be huge for getting heat pumps installed properly, assessing whether the electrical service is sufficient. We got to do something there. We have to make a hub of ways that these contractors who are used to just operating my business by myself, and I don't need anyone else. Thank you very much. I'm just doing my stuff. To collaborate, to find a partner, and then be like, this is my friend that I work with. And also engineers. So in City of Denver for permits, you're going to need stamped engineering drawings now.
For residential?
Not for residential, sorry,
Thank you.
for commercial. Well, that's a big change. And then these contractors who are smaller, don't have an MEP staff, say, who do I go to? And so we're trying to bridge that gap. So the more we can think about that as a group, the better.
Yeah, which is perfect segue.
Oh, I did it on purpose. We did, we planned this.
So we're getting a lot of questions and I'm watching people take pictures and questions in the chat. Are we going to get access to all these slides and all these presentations afterwards?
Yes.
Yes.
We've been saying that in the chat too.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So you will receive the video recording the meeting and all the slide decks, and we can include that as well. So we will absolutely do that.
That goes out to members.
Out to members. Yeah, non-members, you have to be a member to have access to that. Thank you, Sean.
Non-members have to call Deb.
And then call Deb and join. That's part of that's one of the benefits of the EEBC, right?
How much does it cost to be an individual member?
Well, $150. It's not expensive. $300 for a contractor with less than 6 employees, $600 for more than 6. Manufacturers, $3,600. Yeah, and then it's everything in between. So thank you. I appreciate that shout out. Thank you. So next, everything that we're talking about is what happens in the policy action groups. So I want to give a shout out to our chairs and introduce them. On your table, there's actually, it says influence the policy making affects your business. Join your EEBC policy action group today. So we have the list of the action groups that we have and who the chairs are. And if you're a chair or co-chair of a committee, can you raise your hand real quick? Great. And would you take a moment to say which committee that you're in?
Rick Brado, Energy Solutions, DR Emerging Technologies.
Awesome.
Matt Baker, Daikin Comfort Technologies, HVAC, heat pump.
Sean Lamons, Mitsubishi Electric, heat pump, and on the heat pump working group.
Is there anybody? And then online, Sean Mullins, are you online for the building envelope group and Robbie Schwartz?
Sean's here, Sean Mullins, Owens Corning.
Awesome. Do you want to really quick just let everybody know this is a new group because we're looking at, actually I'll say it really quick, Sean, and then you can add on, but looking for the installation, air sealing contractors, the energy analysts as well, any trade that touches the envelope. So third party.
Any trade that touches the building envelope, exactly.
Perfect. So, and then Robbie Schwartz, you're also a co-chair of that committee.
Yeah, this is Robbie Schwartz at Beltank, and yes, I am, and we're beginning to meet.
Yeah, so they're going to start having their first meeting, so get in contact because your committees might be working together, right? How do we get our industries and our contractors of all types get together? And Andrea said that's what we all need to do. So, and then commercial lighting, Scott Kelly is from what previously was Colorado Lighting Services. So, but now they're just doing CLI services, and he wasn't able to make it today, complications. And so just want to shout out. So for the commercial lighting group, they had a lot of wins last year in the settlement plan. So great group for lighting to get involved with. And then also wanted to say thank you to Mike Bryant, who's with Nueva Luce, and he's retiring, and he's one of the past co-chairs, and we just want to thank you for a lot of work for us. So anyway, if you're not involved in the community, just fill out the form on the table and we'll grab that. We'll get in touch with you. Yes.
Commercial lighting is obviously commercial. The rest of them, are they more focused residential or commercial or both?
The rest of them are both. Well, to say, we focused on.
I think I think it depends on the individuals involved. We tend to be more residential focused on the heat pump side, but we are absolutely open to more commercial engagement for sure.
Yeah, and that's the point. if you join the committee and you want to have commercial be a priority, get the other companies involved in there, and then you can have a little subgroup within there, that does the work. I also wanted to introduce, so those are the action groups, but the piece that is important that works so well at the EEBC is we also have a legal team, and that legal team is what we need to intervene with Excel. And our legal team guides us through the process of intervening. Intervening is another word for, it's almost like you're going to court in a way, is what it's like. But it's a settlement process. And so we have Dietz and Davis, Matt Nadell, you want to say hello? Howard Geller, who retired from SWEEP. And so he also is one of our advisors and works on the team, and then I'm a part of that, and then they're a part of every one of your action groups, guiding you through how to put together your proposals, what can go in there, what are the things that need to be flagged in the current plan that are creating barriers, for implementation. So all the things we talked about today, that's where the work happens, and that's where we're able to make change. We also don't just work with Excel, we work with all the other major utilities in the state as well. And so we get a lot of feedback. We'd like to see us doing more in other markets. So if you are not in the Front Range or in Denver mountains, let's get you involved. And so the other piece is, Matt, you brought a recap of the 2023 and then going into 2024. Do you want to say, let me look at the time. I'm actually 4 minutes over. So do you mind pulling up those slides, Eric? And then Matt, do you want to just give a couple comments? Sure. I'm giving you 2 minutes max.
Speed talk. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm acutely aware that you don't want to hear from a lawyer in the morning. Real quick, we'll go to the second slide. This is just a review of what happened in the strategic issues case from last year, and that is going to be guiding what's happening in 2024 through 2026. So these are the budgets for gas energy efficiency, electric energy efficiency, and beneficial electrification. At first, these seem probably like some fairly large numbers. As far as what's going to happen every year. This is only with Xcel Energy. And these are pretty small peanuts compared to what is going to be coming up. So if we want to go to the next slide, please. Actually, we'll go one more. This is what is currently occurring at the Public Utilities Commission, another interesting proceeding on the gas side called the Clean Heat Plan. Okay, the Clean Heat Plan is what is building on everything that Ann and Patricia have been discussing, which is a lot of beneficial electrification. On the left side of this graph, you guys see the numbers that were proposed in the last strategic issues case and that will guide the demand side management plan over the next 3 years. Very, very small bars, as you can see. The state of Colorado has goals to be decreasing emissions from gas use. And currently the amount of money that was allocated in the strategic issues case is about a quarter of what is needed in order to meet those emission goals. So the middle bars or even the bars on the far right are showing what's going to be happening with beneficial electrification over the next 7 to 10 years. Okay, so this means that if you guys thought that installing 14,000 heat pumps in the Denver area alone was a lot, that is, again, going to be small peanuts compared to what the Public Utilities Commission is attempting to push out over the next 7 to 10 years, right? We're talking $100 to $200 million minimum as far as training for manufacturers, distributors, contractors, rebates for individuals. If you want to go to the next slide, that helps discuss, spending twice the amount of the approved dollars in this last plan that we helped work on will not even reach those emission goals. So the commission is really guiding all of your guys' work with a heavy hand. And this is why all of the training that Patricia and Deb have been setting up is going to be incredibly important, because gas appliances will be phasing out a lot more quickly than some of us may like. That doesn't mean that individuals will not have a choice to install gas appliances. In fact, most utilities, as well as the commission, understands that dual fuel will be a really good option for a lot of people over the next 10 years. So that's something to keep in mind. But the policy action groups that Patricia was mentioning help us guide what is happening in the next couple of years. So the 2024 through 2026 plan will build on all of the rebates that Anne was talking about just a couple of minutes ago. So for instance, if you guys are interested in pushing the building envelope rebates to be before the heat pump rebates, that's the kind of feedback that we love to hear early on right now. So when that proceeding does actually happen, we can make sure it gets into the settlement that way. And we'll run out of time. So you guys, please come and chat with me afterwards, but the best thing you can do is getting involved in these policy action groups so we can help guide what the future looks like. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. And you have more additional slides with good background information as well, and those are included in there, so if you want to take a look at those. So we are at the midpoint where we're going to take a 5-minute break. If you guys want to continue, we'll continue. If you want to take a 5-minute break, it'll be a prompt one. And what time is it? Around 8:33. So I'll come back in 5 minutes. I'm going to start on time.
Are just down the hall.
I believe we did start. Okay, oh, okay, take your call.
Eric, can you unmute?
Can anybody in the room hear us? We cannot hear you. Someone tell Eric to unmute his microphone.
Did it, sorry, it's me.
I can hear you.
Okay.
There
Do
we
I
go.
need to do a quick recap again?
Yes.
All right. It might not be the same, but so this topic is excellent because this is where we're going to talk about how different organizations and different states are going to market with the stacking and the braiding, like our energy office said. And then it's complex. And how do we make it simple? And from EEBC's perspective, we're looking at the business perspective from the contractor is going to be the one who's going to sit down at the table and need a simple way to say, okay, here's what we can do today. Your furnace clonked out. Here's your options. Let's look at stacking and rating the rebates. So you've got your city rebate. You might have 2 different utilities in your market. Then you have additional rebates that come from organizations like the Energy Smart Colorado, ERC, and Walking Mountains, and that could be added into that. And then your tax incentive on top of that. And what if you decide to actually, then put on solar? So the point is, how do we make this simple for the contractor and usable so that you can put all that together and come down to a final, here's the package that we're talking about. Here's all the rebates. And the piece that is exciting that we're looking at today is if you add financing to the final rebate or the final amount of your package and the rebate, and you add financing is the key in a lot of other states and different ways that we're going. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we have the Colorado Clean Energy Fund. So Emily is going to talk to us, Richardson, sorry. And we're going to frame it up with 3 speakers, and it's with what's available and what's really going on in the marketplace today. This isn't all pie in the sky type things, so that you can start looking at how you want to go to market and give feedback to all these organizations creating those rebates. And we want to help you do that. So with that, Emily.
Great, thank you. Morning, everyone. Thanks, Patricia and the EEBC for the opportunity to come and speak with you all this morning. My name is Emily Richardson. I'm the program manager for the Colorado Clean Energy Fund. Super excited to be here today to share a little bit more about our organization and history, some of the loan products that we currently offer and are planning to offer in the market soon, and just the power of pairing financing with some of these fabulous rebates.
I'm going to move you forward so you're a little bit louder and touching it in the speaker. So
okay.
Speak up a little bit.
Yeah,
I have people told me that all the time.
All right, so I'll begin with a brief rundown of our history and current loan products that we offer in the market. From there, I'll touch on the power of rebates paired with financing and how we can unlock a lot of projects and opportunities across Colorado. So who are we? So the Colorado Clean Energy Fund is a green bank, and we serve the entire state. You might wonder what a green bank is. We are a mission-driven nonprofit investment fund. Importantly, we're a capital provider, and we deploy funds into what we have deemed financing gaps in the clean energy market for projects that are having trouble securing traditional financing from a regular bank. Importantly, just because we're called a green bank, it does not mean that we're a depository institution. You can't open a checking account with us. We're a capital provider for clean energy products, and our staff have unique clean energy expertise, and we provide very flexible terms to make these projects work. Next slide, please. So the markets that we serve in the state of Colorado, we fill gaps in both the small commercial and residential space. And we have a suite of lending products that seek to bring clean energy and energy efficiency measures to all sorts of sectors, including multifamily affordable housing, small businesses, municipal governments, ag and farming communities, single family homes, and more. Next slide, please. So measures that are eligible to receive CSEF funding kind of run the gamut, as long as they result in reduced greenhouse gas emissions, which is one of our organizational missions. And that can be through energy savings, fuel switching, or new renewable energy generation. As you can see, we fund anything from renewable energy systems that include solar PV, micro hydropower, to highly efficient electrified appliances and HVAC systems, as well as building envelope improvements such as insulation, doors, windows, air sealing. And finally, we've also funded projects that are helping increase the deployment of EV charging infrastructure across the state. Next slide, please.
Question for you. Yeah. Any thought on financing thermal energy storage measures? You can think about it.
Yeah, we can chat about it afterwards for sure. Thanks. So we are a team of 8, as you can see up here on this slide. I'm just going to focus on a few of our team members today because I think they're going to be best equipped to answer any follow-up questions that you might have about our loan products. So in the top right, we have Catherine Rushton, who's our commercial business director. So any questions about commercial projects, commercial loan products that you might be able to connect with some of the businesses you work with would be best directed to her. And I've got contact information for all these people at the end of the deck. In the bottom left there is Jeff King. He's our senior business development manager on the residential side, and he runs our residential program called Renew, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then I am the program lead for our upcoming tariff on bill repayment program, which we are launching this fall. Next slide, please. So I'm going to run through the suite of lending products that CSEF currently offers in the market, starting with the residential side. So this is our residential energy upgrade loan, or Renew, which serves single family homeowners in the state of Colorado. And this will include single family detached homes, condos, and townhomes. Next slide, please. So Renew is a program in partnership with credit unions across the state. We provide what's called a loan loss reserve, which helps unlock capital at these credit unions and enables us to keep interest rates below those that are ordinarily offered in the market for borrowers that are looking to undertake clean energy upgrades for their homes. In addition, we also vet, authorize, and train a network of contractors to participate in this program and perform the clean energy installations. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of the terms that are offered under the Renew program. We finance projects up to $75,000. And the term of the loan can be ordinarily 15 years. For a solar project, will go up to 20 years. Interest rates tend to range, but they remain below market, again, because we offer this loan loss reserve. And it really kind of depends on the credit score of the borrower and the length of the term. Next slide, please. So moving on, this is our next currently residential product, which we hope to plan to eventually expand into the commercial and government space as well. And that's our tariff on bill repayment program. Thanks to Anne for kind of introducing this earlier. So Excel is working on an on-bill financing program right now. And alongside that, we are partnering with Tri-State Generation and Transmission to deploy a tariff on bill repayment program in rural electric cooperative territories that are Tri-State members. Next slide, please. On bill repayment is a mechanism by which utility customers in participating territories have the opportunity to undertake a clean energy project for their home or business. And they repay the cost of that installation via a single line item that shows up on their utility bill. We find it to be a really elegant and innovative financing solution because it eliminates the need for traditional underwriting, such as a credit check or debt to income check. We actually only check the bill pay history to assess the customer's ability to repay. And it really simplifies the repayment process because it keeps that with the utility bill. So you don't have to open a new account. You don't have to do a whole new payment cycle with a different due date and everything. So it's a really nice option for end use consumers. The program is on the verge of launching, and right now it's going to be offered in select electric cooperative territories that are members of Tri-State Generation and Transmission. But over the next year or so, we are hoping to partner with cooperatives that are outside of Tri-State's membership, as well as municipally owned utilities that might be interested in offering this to their customers as well. Next slide, please. So on-bill programs generally work as demonstrated on this flow chart. It starts with a consumer working with a contractor to agree upon some eligible measures. The contractor will do the installation, and then typically a third party or the utility, but in this case for our program, it's going to be a third party, CSEF, and they will pay the upfront cost of this installation. And at that point in time, the customer begins making regular monthly payments through their utility bill for the duration of the project term. Next slide, please. So what's really exciting about this program is we partnered with Tri-State to apply for a 0% interest loan to be the source of capital for this program. And that enables us to offer extremely attractive low rates to consumers. So when we launch, the rates will range from 4% to 4.99%, depending on the term of the project. Similar to Renew, we will go up to $75,000. But unlike Renew, we do plan to expand this offering once we've launched and gone to market with homeowners. We're going to open it up to renters, small commercial businesses, and governmental entities as well, so they can all participate and apply for programs. Next slide, please. So moving on, I'm going to touch on 4 of the commercial loan products that we currently offer in the state. Next slide. I'll start with the Energy Project Accelerator Loan, or Energy PAL. So with Energy PAL, you can finance up to $500,000 for a maximum term of 10 years. Interest rates will range, but they are well below market, and they depend on the length of the term, with a lower interest rate associated with a shorter term. But they're capped at $499 for nonprofits and $599 for for-profit entities. Importantly, our commercial loan products are not influenced by federal interest rates, so borrowers don't have to worry about the interest rates going up over time. They're fixed. And additionally, for the Energy PAL product in particular, we offer a fast-tracked underwriting process for projects that are less than $150,000. So this is a really nimble product that's really useful for a lot of small commercial entities. And then finally, I think a very attractive component of this product as well is that we don't put a lien on the property. It's just a UCC1 filing on the equipment itself. Next slide, please.
Good question. Yeah. What's the definition between residential and commercial?
So residential is going to be like a building that someone lives in, someone's home.
He's a homeowner. Yeah. But what if I own a duplex or a quadplex or an 8-unit? Is that all commercial? I own a single family rental property. Where would that fall under?
So,
clarifying question.
I think, yes.
If it's on bill and that bill's tied to the property, if I understand correctly from Ann, then it's going to basically be related to the zoning, probably.
It might be the meter.
Yeah.
Whether it's a residential meter or
okay, meter. I see. Yeah. So there's kind of a lot of different things to hit on with this question, but for multi-family residences, that will typically fall under commercial projects. I would want to double check with my colleague Jeff for the Renew program in terms of residences that are in the like duplex, like 2-unit range to 4-unit range. As the owner of those might be able to do a renew loan. It would probably just depend. And then for the on-bill program, the owner of the residence has to kind of opt into it in some way. So if you are the owner and you're living in the home, you would be the program participant. When we eventually open it up to renters, we want renters to be able to pursue projects and apply. And if they are the person whose account is in their name, they would apply for the program, but they would need landlord consent essentially to make these changes to the property.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Can we go back one slide, please? So our second commercial product that I'm going to discuss is called our clean conversion loan. So we offer this product because sometimes projects need a longer term to pencil out and cash flow positive. So this one, we'll extend the term out to 15 years. We'll finance an amount up to $1 million. And the way we do interest rates for this product differs slightly. They're still capped and well below market. For-profit does not exceed 6.99. Nonprofit does not exceed 5.99. But the interest rate that you end up with is more aligned with the business risk profile of the borrower rather than the term like it was in Energy Pal. And then finally, with this loan, we do have a subordinate lien on the property, which is different from the Energy Pal that just has a UCC1 filing. What's great though, is for both of these products, there's no prepayment penalty. So if a business has a really good year, has some extra cash, has some tax incentives that came in after the fact, they're able to come to us and apply that money to the remaining principal balance and pay off more of that loan at no additional charge. Next slide, please. So I'll finish up with our last two products that are geared kind of towards specific technologies, starting with our LED lighting loan. So importantly, this is a limited product offering. We're offering it through the end of 2023. So if you know any small businesses, commercial entities that have not made the switch to LED lighting but might be interested, highly recommend putting them in touch with our commercial business director, Catherine, as this is a really great product for LED lighting products or projects. Why is that? So LED lighting projects tend to be low cost for the amount of energy savings and cost savings that result from the increased efficiency. And so this is a short-term loan that we offer for up to 3 years at a very low rate of 3.45%. And we're able to do this because we are partnering with the state and using funds that we access through the state to fund projects. But also because of that, there might be some additional eligibility requirements that you'll want to talk through with Catherine, and that is why it is a limited time. Next slide, please. And finally, I'm going to finish out with our Charge Ahead loan. So this is another partnership program. There is a program through the Colorado Energy Office called Charge Ahead, which offers grants to entities that are building out EV infrastructure. And these grants are reimbursable. So what we'll do is provide a short-term loan to the applicant to bridge that time between when they've applied for the grant, when they make the installation, and then when they actually receive the funds. And then the entity that's doing the EV infrastructure project can actually assign that grant directly to us. And when we receive it, we will use it to pay off the bridge loan that they took out. But I also want to touch on, in addition to being able to do a short-term loan that just covers the amount of the grant, we do offer our kind of more traditional loan product for the full cost of an EV infrastructure project. So in these instances, we can do loans up to 10 years, terms or interest rates that are capped at 5.99%. And once again, we don't charge prepayment penalties. So at any point in time, the entity can apply a certain amount of money to pay down their principal and reduce their monthly payment. Next slide, please. So that was kind of a whirlwind tour of CSEF's financing products. I hope it was a helpful overview, but we will be providing these slides and contact information for myself and my colleagues to go into more detail and answer any questions that you might have. So shifting gears a little bit, I want to touch on why we at CSEF feel that financing is so key to unlocking clean energy opportunities and how they can kind of be complementary with so many of the great rebates that are currently offered and about to be offered across the state. So as we've talked about at length this morning, the market is kind of flush with a lot of rebate opportunities, grant opportunities, and tax incentives that are geared towards increasing the deployment of clean energy and energy efficiency measures. So this is a super exciting time to be in clean energy, and these funds are going to be really invaluable to just kind of really triggering the market to deploy more of these projects. However, rebates, grants, and tax incentives don't outright eliminate some of the financial challenges that are associated with undergoing a really big major energy upgrade project. As we all know, tax incentives, you can just claim them in tax season. So there's often a significant lag time between when you might do a project and when you can eventually get the funds from the tax credit. And additionally, even if you're able to get a rebate or grant very quickly upfront, they only reduce the upfront cost that can be very high for an energy project, but they don't eliminate them. By introducing some of our financing products, that converts a formerly very high sticker shock for an energy project into an affordable monthly payment that the borrowers can kind of depend on for a set number of years for the term of that project. Next slide, please. So I've pulled in a real world example of a residential project. This was a mini split pump project for a home. So the 2023 invoice for this 4-ton mini split pump, just kind of without any rebates or incentives applied, was $14,770. So we've talked a lot about stacking rebates and tax incentives. You could add a $2,400 utility rebate, a $1,500 tax credit, and a $2,000 federal tax credit. Sorry, the first one was state tax credit, second was federal. And that reduces the final cost by quite a lot. You end up with $8,870, which is incredible. But at the end of the day, because of the nature of tax credits, you have $12,370 that are due kind of on day one prior to being able to claim those tax credits. By introducing financing, you can eliminate that really high upfront cost and really just make it those regular, smaller monthly payments. And it's much more manageable for a homeowner, small business, or a governmental entity. Next slide, please. So to finish up, I just want to touch a little bit on how rebate and grant programs can be structured to work better with financing and really kind of render more clean energy projects possible. So our team at CSEF is really excited about the concept of kind of third-party assignability of rebates and grants. So why is this? First, assignability can result in lower lifetime interest payments. By taking that rebate amount or grant amount and applying it directly to the upfront project cost, you'll reduce kind of the amount that has to be borrowed. You'll reduce the principal, and therefore the borrower is paying less interest over the lifetime of the project. Second, the assignability has the potential to qualify more customers, which is really exciting. How does it do this? Oftentimes when customers are participating in loan programs, they have kind of a maximum amount that they're allowed to borrow. And so if you're applying a rebate or grant directly to the full project amount, you're reducing the amount that they have to borrow. And so they're not hitting that threshold as often, and you might get more people that can qualify for our financing. And finally, the third-party assignability can help with these lag times that I've been talking about. between when a project is installed and when a rebate or tax incentive is received. Oftentimes, the entity applying for funds does not have the ability to kind of float that couple of $1,000s. And so by assigning that to us, we can absorb that lag time and eliminate that issue for the end use consumer. Next slide, please. So I'll just conclude with this final example, which pulls from the heat pump numbers that I was talking about a couple of minutes ago. So this slide demonstrates kind of the power of combining various rebate programs with some of our financing programs. And in this case, I'm going to use our on-bill repayment program as an example, but you can kind of pull from different programs and pull different terms, and you'll get pretty similar results. So on the far left of the slide, you'll see kind of a traditional project that receives bank financing with no rebate. And say you have an 8% interest over 120 months. That results in a roughly $180 monthly payment. If you introduce on-bill repayment financing, which as I mentioned, can have anywhere from a 4 to 4.99% interest rate, you've reduced that payment down to about $150 a month. And you can see as you work your way over a rebate with bank financing, which is the higher interest rate, a little higher than our OBR financing, but lower than obviously the financing without the rebate. And finally, you end with applying the rebate, which we're able to do with our tri-state program because they do have third-party assignability, and utilizing our low-interest OBR financing. And you've resulted in a payment that's about $125 a month. So now we've gone from $180 to $125. And I know that that can look fairly modest, but over the course of 120 months, that saves the end-use consumer thousands of dollars. So this is just an example, of course, but you can kind of apply this model to a lot of the loan products and financing options that we offer. And it just demonstrates that when we pair all of these really incredible rebate and incentive programs that are coming down the pipeline with attractive financing options that are offered by green banks like us, we can unlock many more opportunities in the market and kind of facilitate an energy transition that is a lot more accessible across the entire state of Colorado. Next slide, please. And with that, I'll wrap up and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
So the fund is available for all of Colorado, but the TOBR is strictly with Tri-State right now, is that correct?
Yeah, so we're starting out in a partnership with Tri-State. And so the early cooperative territories that we're going to launch in are Tri-State members. But there is a plan to expand beyond Tri-State membership and start partnering with other electric cooperatives and munis in the state of Colorado.
So only cooperatives and munis, there are no investor-owned utilities?
Well, can I jump in? Sure. Just in the Bell group that we were in, like Colorado Springs is looking to start doing on-bill financing. PRPA is also working on it for Fort Collins, you know, for the 4 utilities up there. So I think we're going to see it roll. It sounds like there's different groups are working on.
Those are all publicly owned utilities is what I'm getting at. So are there any investor-owned?
Yeah, so I mean, so as Anne mentioned, Xcel Energy is working on their own on-bill financing program. So they're going to be
separate from this, okay.
Yeah, so they're separate programs. So then I think the only one left is Black Hills, and that's a question mark. We're not sure at this time, but the immediate plans are rural cooperatives and munis.
Great. All right. And then we'll have time for more questions after our next 2 speakers too. Thank you, everybody. The thing that I think is, so our next speaker is Adam Stephenigel from Radiant Homes, and he's been working in California and in New York and other locations. And I summarize this and he's like, well, Patricia's doesn't exactly work like this, but the whole idea of getting the rebates stacked and then applying low-cost financing. And I was like, so basically you're saying that a homeowner, he has great stats. He's going to walk through a bundle and how it increases the opportunity for the sale uptake of the homeowner. And and then you can correct it later. But if I was to summarize it, I'd be like, it's kind of like a homeowner is more inclined to, you know, purchase and install and do a retrofit in their home, let's say for a heat pump or insulation, air sealing. If there's a rebate, there's percentages like, okay, there's like a 30% increase that they're likely to, you know, close that job of using a rebate. And then if you add that low cost financing he's going to run through scenarios, it could be up to 80%. That's a big game changer. So I think that's why we wanted to look into that low cost financing and what's happening in the market. So we're going to have Adam walk through how that works and see real numbers from other locations and give us some information. And then we also have a contractor that originally was Solar Genius is now Energy Genius, and they are also looking at the solar rebates are now open to any retrofit in your home. So and that's just happened in the last year and a half. There's a lot brewing. And so we wanted to bring some of this stuff for us to take a look at for you guys.
Awesome. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep. Yes.
Awesome. Eric, if you can stop your screen share so I can take over and show what I got.
Screen share and it should give you control.
It's not letting me.
All right, we'll try something else.
So you need to stop in order for me to do it. So
try to.
He said you need to stop.
There we go. Let's see. Oh, no, you're still sharing.
Stop sharing.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Now I have some access. 1 second here. All right. So do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, I just have to say I'm super excited about all the previous presentations we saw, and specifically the one just before this. It tees up everything I'm going to talk about perfectly, and I'm going to show not just one example like was shown with the financing, but I'm going to show you millions. So it's pretty exciting and fun stuff. Adam Steftenagel, I'm the CEO and co-founder of two companies, Radiant Labs and Snug Home. You are all probably familiar with Snug Home. Our software Snug Pro is the energy auditing tool that's used in the Excel energy auditing program that you all have, a lot of you have access to and are probably using on a fairly regular basis. So all energy audits performed through Excel's audit rebate are done with Snug Pro. It's subsidized by Excel. So it's kind of exciting that, you know, when the energy office puts out the homes rebates and the HERA rebates, it requires that assessment. Well, you have a free tool under Excel Energy that allows you to do those assessments and generate reports for the homeowners. So we're excited for those kinds of opportunities. We are also one of the few tools out there that can calculate energy models based on the BPI 2400 standard, which is a utility bill calibration methodology. A lot of you folks are doing that, even though you don't know you're doing that. So when you're calculating that 20% or 35% tier, that's all built right into our software, as well as a lot of different productivity tools, et cetera. So that's Snug. It's also used in a bunch of the different programs like PRPA and Energy Smart Colorado up in the mountains and things like that. So you're familiar with that. Probably less familiar to you all is the work that we're doing at Radiant Labs. This is a sister company to Snug Home. When, you know, in I guess around 2014, Brett Kincairn from the city of Boulder came to us and said, how do we solve these big carbon issues? Like, we've got to start saving way more carbon than our programs are saving today. What are the things that are going to do that? And so we started running a bunch of analysis, running the models, and really came to the conclusion that deep energy retrofits, pretty much going all the way to net zero, is the only way to really make a dent in that carbon footprint that we're seeing in all of our homes. So how do you do that? Does that make any kind of economic sense? And you know, this was 2014, where the fracking boom was really at its peak. Gas was ridiculously cheap, and electricity was moderately priced. When you have those kinds of things happening, it makes it so hard for heat pumps to make sense. And you've seen report after report from Sweep and a lot of these folks over the years that, yeah, we're getting there. Heat pumps are starting to make sense. But even with a fully subsidized 100% free heat pump, the operating cost is more in so many cases to run that heat pump than it is to run an 80% gas furnace. That is finally changing as gas prices are finally starting to creep up relative to electricity prices. So we're starting to see that change, but that's by itself. So what are the other really important things that are necessary to make the economics start to make sense? So we've talked about stacking rebates. We've talked about bundling, doing air sealing and insulation, the efficiency work and heat pumps. That requires different trades. We heard a lot about financing here. And so what are the things that really make electrification make sense? Well, all of those things. So I'm going to show some different examples of this and dive into what it looked like in the market to apply all these pieces and show what kinds of things have the biggest impacts in making the economics work for homeowners. So that's a little bit about what we do and what we're what I'll show here today. So the first thing I want to show is this slide, and this is something I've done presentations on this concept for quite some time now. But bundling is such an important piece because this new world of electric cars, battery storage, having rooftop solar available now, that the prices of these technologies have come down dramatically. And it's really changing the cost of energy in a big way. And so if you've got a business as usual status quo of fossil fuel life, you've got a gas furnace, a gas water heater, a gas car, and you're throughout the day, you're spending money to power those things, that adds up. It adds up to a lot, in fact. And so over a 10-year period, just that energy cost is really substantial, but you're also replacing these things. All of those things fail and you need to replace them. So if you're going to replace your old gas furnace with a new gas furnace, you're going to be spending some serious money doing that. You're going to do the same thing with the water heater and with your car. So if you go down that traditional pathway of burning fossil fuels and continuing to purchase fossil fuel based equipment, you're looking at on a 10-year timeline, saying you're even financing the car and the water heater and the furnace and those types of things, you're going to be spending $105,000. This is a generic example, but like $100,000 is how much a household would be spending on that business as usual. So if you look on the graph on the right, let's take away all of that operating cost. Let's do a heat pump for space heating and cooling. Let's do a heat pump water heater. Let's do an induction cooktop. Let's cap the gas line. Let's get an electric car, right? Let's then put enough solar on the roof to power it all. And if you do all of that, your fossil fuel, your operating costs literally go to zero. And what you have to be able to do is finance all of those capital expenditures, right? Operating cost goes away, you have nothing left but capital. So financing all of those pieces together over the same 10-year period, you're actually only spending $75,000. So this is $30,000 of savings, of money back into the pocket of these homeowners. So providing those kinds of really low interest and high total availability loans, like earlier, $75,000 limit. Okay, I mean, you're not going to be financing the car through that because there's much better financing and things like that for cars specifically. But all of the other pieces, the envelope and the heat pump pieces, financed in this way, look at this savings. It's really, really phenomenal. So that's just the general concept. Bundling, bringing all the pieces together. You've got limitations on this though, right? Your solar contractors may not be doing much work in electrification. They may not be doing air sealing and insulation. So we need, as was said earlier, we need to be bringing these pieces of the puzzle together so that the different trades can understand how beneficial the other trades are to selling their particular product, right? If you're a heat pump installer and all you're doing is heat pumps, if you don't do that envelope improvement, you may not get the loads down low enough so that you can install just a heat pump. You're going to need some kind of backup heat and fossil fuel backup system. So you're really not getting the carbon savings you're looking at. If you put in electric resistance as a primary backup, now you're taxing the grid. That's something that we're going to be seeing in this. I'm looking forward to this Mythbusters presentation that Excel's putting together that will talk about that specifically, right? So getting the loads down first allows us to use less backup to be able to use a cold climate heat pump 100% of the time with way better efficiencies. And that also allows the total economics of the package to work better. All of that drops the total requirements for the rooftop solar, which the solar guys can come in now and put in a comprehensive solar system that can cover the entire load of the building. You may have not had enough room on your roof to do a net zero solar system because you had too much load or too much requirement before. So all of the pieces together really, really do help each other. And we got to be able to bring all the contractors together so that we can start in a comprehensive way. So that's the general premise of what Radiant Labs is trying to facilitate. We've been doing a lot of work with cities and states, governments to look at, well, what does the lay of the land look like? For all the homes in our territory, can this stuff work and can it make sense and can it be applied? Emergency replacement is something that came up. It's like, yes, of course, we have to get in front of that emergency replacement timeline. Can we find out through permit data how old everyone's equipment is and start having the conversation with them so that when the equipment does fail, we're ready. If you're a solar contractor, and I'm looking forward to the presentation from the solar guys next, these guys do electrical. They can pre-wire everything you need to electrify the house so that when the appliances do go out, it's a very quick replacement and you've got everything done and you're ready to go. So, some examples of this, that Patricia had mentioned, other states are really spending a lot of time and effort, like New York, on heat pump readiness. So they're working to get the word out to as many people as possible to reduce the loads, do the envelope work first, and do the pre-wiring so that whenever that emergency replacement comes along, they're ready to go and they can pop in a heat pump system that's sized properly. So those are some examples there. I'm going to switch over to some dashboards. And so this is a dashboard that Radiant Labs has put together. This is under contract with NYSERDA in New York State. And we did Energy Plus hourly energy model for all 3 million homes, all 3 million single family homes in the state of New York. And all of the modeled results from those homes are in this dashboard running on our servers. And I can then apply economic factors to the mix to see if the total economic picture for a homeowner makes sense or not. So we use what we call cash flow. So simply, are the monthly payments on the loan, crucial to finance these things, are the monthly payments on the loan more than or less than the average monthly savings? We want to be sure that homeowners are not paying a whole lot of extra money out of pocket up front, right? If you're wealthy or you've got a bunch of cash, it's a great investment, do it. But most folks don't have $75,000 sitting around to just throw at this kind of thing, or $40,000 or $30,000 or even $10,000. So financing is crucial. And can we make sure that what they're spending every month is less than what they're paying today, or equal to at least? And then after that loan's paid off, it's gravy, and they're going to be saving a lot of money after that point. But we don't want to create a new financial burden by trying to sell heat pumps to folks. So all of these pieces are really important to bring together. So cash flow is the term that we like to use for this. It's a financed number. On the screen, we're seeing 3 million homes. We applied an energy model to every home in the state that includes some sort of air sealing and an attic insulation upgrade, plus a heat pump and a heat pump water heater. And this is a cold climate heat pump. and a high efficiency heat pump water heater. And we've got all the costs built in that what it typically costs throughout the state of New York for installing this type of equipment. We've got the actual natural gas prices and electricity prices that are for the utilities for every region in every location here, applied to every individual dot that you're seeing on the map. And we've then created this energy model saying, here's what each house would save if they did that package of improvements in terms of MMBTUs. And then what I can adjust live is what that economic output is. So the percent of homes that are cash flow positive by doing this improvement under my current market factors that I have over here on the left. There's a lot of red on the screen. Red means not the best economic viability for doing just air sealing insulation and heat pumps, but this is the analysis we did. So for NYSERDA, what do you want to do to make those economics better? Rebates. Rebates make a lot of sense. So let's apply the $4,000 homes rebate to this mix because we know that's probably pretty straightforward for them to get, plus NYSERDA's existing heat pump rebate, which is about $2,000. And we add that to the mix. Now watch our number. We go from 11% to 18%. We got an extra couple 100,000 homes that are now cash flow positive for doing this work. That was throwing some rebates at it. Let's look at what interest rates can do. And this is pretty powerful because you saw a range of different interest rates in the previous presentation and in Ann Kirkpatrick's presentation for financing. So 7.5% is kind of like the general standard rebate or standard financing rate that you can get on a 15-year term. That's what we saw, but they've also got the Unbill, which goes down to like 4%. So if I type in 4%, as the interest rate now, we just bumped up the 34% cash flow positive. Now watch this. I saw Ann's presentation say that the on-bill financing for Excel is 1.69%. Let's watch some magic happen here. 1.69% interest rate takes us to 46% of the homes in the state of New York would be cash flow positive. And this is assuming they've all got new equipment. We haven't even put in the fact that they're already going to have to be spending more money to replace an existing fossil fuel system at its end of life. So adding into the mix the economics that, okay, I'm already going to have to spend $10,000 on this. So what's the incremental cost to do this? And now pretty much every home, 75% of the homes in the state of New York would cash flow positive by doing this work. Right. So this is the really interesting analysis you can do. We can dive into so many different components of this. I don't have a ton of time to show any more detail here, but we can look at disadvantaged communities. We can focus on owner occupied. We can look at total peak heating load thresholds and why cold climate heat pumps are so important as opposed to single speed heat pumps that don't go below 34 degrees, et cetera. So all those types of things we've done analysis on. But I want to show you San Francisco and the power of solar. So this is a deep energy retrofit model, that package of improvements that we've done. This is full electrification, getting completely off of natural gas. And what are the economics for it? With no rebates and 7.5% interest rate, a no PV scenario is only showing 2% of the homes would cash flow positive from this. And this is mild climate San Francisco. It's not a lot of cooling load, not a lot of heating load. But putting enough solar on the roof to cover the offset. So, you know, when you electrify, you always increase, for the most part, you're increasing your electric load on the building. Putting enough solar on the roof to cover that takes us up to 3%, but going to net zero, it takes us to 10%. So doing enough solar to cover the whole deal, you got a lot more homes that are cash flow positive. Let's throw in some big rebates that we know are available in California, and let's drop that interest rate. Let's say we take it down to 3%. Look at the difference. 24,000 homes cash flow positive with no solar. 78,000 homes, 76% are cash flow positive with solar. So that kind of tees up the folks that are coming after me. I'm probably running out of time here, but I can dive into this in a lot more detail if necessary. But I wanted to just kind of set the framework with. I'd love to do this kind of analysis for Colorado. Been talking with a lot of different folks on how to make that happen and get the budgets together so we can do this for you guys. Oh, the one thing that I forgot to say, this is really important. We not only are we looking at the analysis of how many homes would be cash flow positive and like what the stats are, but I can zoom in here and only choose the homes that are cash flow positive. Oh, and here's their names and addresses. Go get them. So customer targeting. So that's another big, really valuable piece of this platform. So
that's cyber stalking.
Cyber shock.
Thank you, Adam. And I think that to kind of pull it all together, the point is that low cost financing makes the more frequent sale, but it also is how to tell that story to the homeowner so that it makes sense in a simple way. And that's what I think all of our organizations that are talking about right now really comes from. And I think we think that, you know, stacking rebates, the holy grail, and then, you know, Chris, like everybody's talking about, you know, the sole source, one-stop shop. Is it a clearinghouse, or all the words that I hear members talking about that's going to be necessary to make that picture simple for the homeowner? You can just go, hey, here's the things that you can do. Here's the financial benefit. We show that, and save on an energy bill, and you're going to be more comfortable in the home. Action gas way, and then here's your total. Here's all your rebates. Now let's take that amount down and throw the low cost financing on, and oh no, that would be the holy grail. So next we have the Energy Genius company. They started in solar and mortgage company, so they are going to talk to us about some financing that is available today that had its roots on the solar side, but is available now for all the products everybody has in this room. And so we have both Robert Knutson and Paul Timpson. If you guys want to introduce yourselves and take a couple minutes to just kind of give us that high level scenario that's being done in the market and is available today. These financing packages are also available today.
Yeah, great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this will only take, 30 or 45 minutes. Just kidding. No, we got about 5 minutes. So yeah, my name is Paul Timpson. I'm the co-founder of Energy Genius. We've sold solar all over the US. And for the last 2 years, we've done a lot of partnership, collaborative work with HVAC contractors, roofing, and a lot of energy efficiency stuff. So I'll let Robert introduce himself and then we'll get going.
All right. Well, my name is Robert Knutson. I'm a former mortgage loan originator for primary residential mortgage. So heavy financial industry background, and pivoted to solar to be pioneering the virtual sales process with Paul here since 2016. So that's me. You can continue, Paul.
Great. We have a few slides. We'll make them as short as possible. But if you want to hit the slideshow, flip through that. Is it showing? Doesn't show for me. Oh, there we go. Yeah, well, so just for the sake of time, I'm going to be as brief as possible and high level as possible. All the financing data we got from the Colorado Clean Energy Fund kind of explains some of the data with the financing and how it's super useful. And then Adam did a great job at kind of looking at a lot of the holistic data for everything that's relevant, I think, to anyone in the energy efficiency, heat pump, solar space. So we on the solar side, what's unique about solar is it has very long-term financing, 25, 30-year financing. And the reason that ends up being super useful is someone can get a solar system, it produces 30 plus years of power, and they can finance it at a similar term. And so the payments are really low. So what we've done is started to kind of do this rebate stacking with the financing, because that's how solar is already built. There's a really large tax credit. And just like with the Colorado Clean Energy Fund, she mentioned that if you have these rebates and incentives, they're not up front. A lot of them are tax-based, and so you have to wait, 12 months to get your tax credits. So all the financing we're going to talk about allows for multiple reamortizations, and that they typically have an 18-month window for you to take the incentives, apply them to the loan without having a huge increase in the monthly expenses. So if Eric, if you want to go to the next slide, I promise you this is the only slide I'm going to use. So I put this slide up to kind of get a sense of the big problem in the market that I think all of us are kind of going after. And this is just a graph from the Federal Reserve's website that shows the average electrical price in the US. So as you can see, it's trending upward. And with inflation and other, things that are happening in the energy markets, this will only continue to go up. So the rising cost of energy is kind of what we're tackling, as long as, reducing our consumption. So a few pieces of data: over 80% of the homes in the US are more than 20 years old. And that just gives us a good indication that there's energy efficient upgrades to do, and that there's a lot of equipment that needs to be replaced. So market-wise, this is only going to continue exploding across the US, and it's really exciting for Colorado because of all the, rebates, incentives, and tax credits that we have. One of the things that we found a lot of success with is we partner with HVAC companies and roofing companies to offer solar as a referral project, but we also started rolling in roofing, HVAC upgrades, heat pumps, and energy efficiency into the solar loans. Because it's a 25-year term, we can roll in those upgrades, and it has the minimal impact possible to the homeowner. And then with any energy efficiency, we can reduce the usage before we produce with the solar. And like Adam was saying, it ends up being a lot more cash flow positive and just a lot better for the homeowner. So the high level point here is just this kind of financing is zero out of pocket. It has instant approvals. So you can be in the home and get someone instantly approve and sign docs there. We're used to that with solar, but now this financing is becoming available for non-solar work. And Robert's going to kind of touch some of the, terms and how the financing works. But with this transition to get more heat pump adoption and other energy efficiency upgrades, we're used to do it with solar. We can combine a lot of these with solar, but he's going to talk about there's a lot of options. Most of the contractors we talk to don't really know anything about them or haven't used these options. And it's the same deal. Multiple reamortizations, so you can roll in the rebates after the fact. It's instant approval. You can sign docs in the home. And then it's, zero out of pocket and low interest rate funding. So because of time, I'll keep it that brief. I'll put our contact info in the chat. We've done a lot of consulting and partnerships with home service companies rolling out the adoption of a lot of these programs. So with that, Robert, I'll let you hit it.
All right. Do you want to advance the slide? All right. Well, I'll be really quick. So we're going to talk a little bit about the financing of the future. So these are 4 examples of contractors that we've partnered with and used in the last year on actual projects. So each of them offer a zero out-of-pocket, no down payment, fixed interest rate, up to 20-year loan terms, down to 3.99 APR. A lot of the terms that we talked about previously. And then Patricia talked about having greater market uptake of heat pumps, how you can go from a 30% uptake with rebates to 80% with financing. Well, these home renovation loans were actually adapted from the solar financing product and are available for regular contracting type work today. So it is a way to stack rebates, and so that you can put as many items in your shopping cart as possible to get as many rebates at tax season as possible. So the one thing I want to add to this slide is that the loan limits are around 100 grand, but by actually combining it with solar, you can gain access to 25 to 30-year terms with interest rates down to 2.9% and do the entire electrification of that house in one sale. So with the solar program, you can also stretch those loan limits up to 200 grand. So you can truly retrofit somebody's entire home, bring their electrified home of the future into reality in a single point of sale, as well as stacking all their rebates. So we don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to leave it that simple. But this gives you a good idea of portals and financing companies that you can get set up with on your reps' iPads today.
Yeah, I guess the final point there is just, we talk about rebate stacking and incentives. It's happening. Like the use case, especially in the solar industry, it's happening a lot. And so we're starting to see it kind of hit into other like HVAC contractors, other home service companies. So a lot of what we talked about today is here's what we need to do in the future, and it's possible. And so like Adam said, and what we're saying, it's happening. You can do the rebate stacking. You can combine them today, and ends up being just a slam dunk sale and an amazing deal for the homeowner. So that's it. That's our 5 minutes.
And provides a reason to buy solar all at the same time.
Well, I think the thing that impressed me when you guys talked about it is that, so you can, solar was the original financing that this was created. You can do a project now and not have any solar in it and put in, you said there's like 10 things you'd never think of that you could roll into doing a retrofit on your home. And that's why you're like, no, you can do the
Yeah.
with the
I'll
full
give you a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since you mentioned it, so like things you would never think that you could finance. You can finance grass, fake turf, real turf. You know, you can make a business case out of converting people to fake grass to knock out their water payment on their lawn. You can do credit card debt consolidation. You can do all sorts of things.
Yeah, and any retrofit, you can put a fence in, you can put a roof on your house, you can do any
do windows,
energy efficiency
anything.
retrofit, windows. So if a homeowner has been wanting to do something, you can roll the heat pump and the insulation, the air sealing, and a fence and some energy efficient grass. I don't know.
You can do a whole wish list.
A whole wish list. And roll it in at 3.99 and have to have solar in it. Because now it's been, you said, a year and a half.
Yep. So we've seen these products really come into their own over the past 3 years, but they've only been really available, and I've only been using them for the past year. So we've used them in property flipping situations, helping first homeowners build equity, and then helping people create like Airbnbs out of an unused basement. I mean, this financing is wild, especially for investors.
So I thought it was interesting to look at what the private industry is bringing forward as well, and that there's a lot of new options out there as contractors and going and talking to homeowners. So that was that. So we have a little bit of time if you want to ask questions of our speakers. 3 minutes, but is there any questions or thoughts about today? Just giving us feedback on where the industry is going or your particular thoughts. And are you rethinking, or how do we all move forward? Was this helpful today? Yeah. Okay, good. Would you like to have any follow-up? I think there are specific feedback sessions that we're going to be setting up with different entities, probably different commercial than residential, or energy office, and would you want some kind of training on the financial piece for your sales teams?
Hey guys, Pete Perret, Gustav Larson. I think one of the things that I get from our contractors in regards to this is some easier tools to make sure that that the contractors understand how to take advantage of all the different types of things. And if we could put it all together into one tool, or I don't know if that's possible, but one something like that, I think that would be extremely beneficial. I think that more and more people would take advantage of these rebates and bundle them together and making it just super as easy as possible. I know that's kind of like the what I'm getting from a lot of contractors.
And that's what we're hearing from most of our members. I actually haven't heard anything other than that. So yeah, any other comments? Thank you for coming today, and thank you everyone for staying on and joining us online. I think we do great work, and I think you guys do great work, and the collaboration that's happening I believe that just strategically, vision-wise, that Colorado has an opportunity to solve this. It's different than some of the states. We have the EEBC, we have the individual electrification leagues, we have the cities and the utilities, and we've been meeting together for 2 years already. So I think there's an opportunity for collaboration between the industry, the construction industry, and all the entities making all these rules and new opportunities. How do we come up with something that is easy, like Pete said, for our contractors to sit down in front of a consumer and just go, here you go. Like, this is, we make it easy. We're gonna come up with the easy button. So yeah, super appreciate it. If there's any other comments before we go. All right, we're gonna be packing up, and
I've got a class that starts at 10 o'clock in here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You wander down through the building or the couple floors. If you guys have conversations or networking, you don't have to leave the building. I just need you out of here. But take advantage of, your time here. There's an Einstein Bagels, and a refill of coffee down on the first floor. You can find an open classroom or an open networking room to continue a conversation and keep it going. But thank you guys for coming.
Reminder, grab flyers for the workforce training. Also sign up for a committee as well.
Oh, do I work in Massachusetts? Yes, we work in Massachusetts, California, and Colorado. I work with. Okay, I work with Zero Homes, which is we're a software startup. We're providing a virtual assessment for homeowners to plan. A lot of the upfront stuff, a lot of the visits, streamline the entire install. So we've done some pilot programs with Mass DC, city in California. Yeah, I work in okay. Nice. We've talked with Sean a few times, and then also with Matt and Lycan about we're pretty small. We're building our technology, but we're able to serve anyone now. And like, is that right? If we're actually going to get, yeah, so talking with people, hey, could we pipeline it someday? So
I like or not out but
no, I mean that's the basically so normally go off Fifth Ave. So I changed again. So I'm now our product manager.
And that's
so yeah, director of like now. So yeah.
You probably know this, but the challenge we're is every single state, every county has a different rebate.
So we're gonna close next year. I mean, services side, right? So